So thank you for coming along. I'm sorry, I'm not Avi Paul, who can't be here. Start. Oh, great. Trust me, you'll need the black one a lot to say stop. Yeah, I'm Ben Maynard, not Avi Paul. Avi can't be here, so I'm covering. You might see me around at the conference the last couple of days, interviewing a lot of the speakers, doing talks in 10 for my podcast. I'm not going to be able to interview, well, I could interview myself, as me and Pavel were just discussing, but in fact I'm going to be interviewed by Shelby, I think, and Henrietta, to give my talk in 10. So yeah, thank you for coming along. What I wanted to talk about today was something which is really, I'm really passionate about, and for a number of reasons, which I'll explain as we go through the course of the next half an hour. For a long time, I tried to make product visions in organizations and kind of facilitate product visions, and they were always crap. They were never very good. And so I began to think of this idea about what is it that's the problem with this? And what I came to the conclusion originally was I called it product vision cataracts. And I thought maybe some people don't know what cataracts are. So what I came to the conclusion was actually what we suffer from in many organizations that are product organizations or tech mindset organizations who are playing at being a product organization is that the product visions that are created are too blurry. They are not focused on anything in particular. And actually there are very significant links to the complexity that exists in organizations. And that's what I want to explore over the next half an hour. There is a distinct chance I might just stop going through my slides and just start making stuff up. So if you don't worry, all of the slides will be available in their unedited form for you to take away and have a look at in your own time. So what I want to go into is how do we transform blurred product visions so that we can actually find ways to create simpler organizations so we can get really radical results. Last week I was with an organization, I was with some CTOs and some kind of product directors and a CPO, and they're a big-ish organization, about 500 people, and they've really struggled to make an impact over the last couple of years. And yeah, I rewrote this entire presentation after spending an afternoon with them and applying some of the techniques which I'm going to be going through today. So I hope that it inspires you to go away and just try one thing, right? Or suggest one thing, or read a new book. Because I think we can get radical results if we take a different perspective. So when you think of product visions, I want to know what word springs to mind. And hopefully, if you go now and you're in our slides, you can type in a word. Like when you think of product visions, and there is a profanity filter, so tough luck. Can't swear on it. But honestly, if put something facetious, whatever you really think, because product visions have got a really bad reputation, I think. No, it says submissions closed, because I was too punitive on the time limit, perhaps. Well, I tell you what. Yeah, look at that. That was, there we go. It's a new feature. So tap it in, and when you think of it, hope, love it. Diagram, vague, I love it. Vague, yes. Loose path, that's an interesting one. Non-existent, wordy. I'm anchoring on all the things which I think speak to my personal experience of trying to do this, right? Blue sky, North Star. There we go. So most people came up with something quite different there. Unfulfilled, unclear, vague, nonsense. Get lost. Yeah, beautiful. Bull crap. Yes, because the other one would have been filtered out. Yeah, but then there's some aspirational desire, but then fluffy, like perfect, absolutely perfect, because that's what happens. In organizations, particularly this idea of tech mindset organizations, so organizations who had a business and had tech as a function, and have tech as a function. And then over the course of time, that business has evolved and they've relied more and more upon technology, but it's still been a separate part of the organization. Tech then supply the business, and then there's been a supply and demand model. The customer for tech is the business, not the actual customer. And all they're trying to do is serve this proxy for the truth, rather than the truth. And so what happens then is that as these tech mindset organizations want to have a go at being a product organization, they download a product vision board, template, or something else like that, have a go at filling it in. And it is all the things, all the negative things we've got there, unfulfilled, it's nonsense, it's fluffy, it's vague, because we're not a product company. And we don't really understand what it means. Somebody said to me yesterday, product visions are just an artifact, and our job as people is just to help facilitate the creation of the artifact. Now, for me, that's the root of the problem. So I would say that if you have product vision impairment, some of the symptoms you're going to be finding in your organization are that prioritization is incredibly difficult, almost impossible to do. That we end up with dissatisfied customers and users, because we're always working on the proxy, or worse, a proxy of a proxy, or worse, we see the team that is dependent upon us to get the work done as our customers, or vice versa, and we're never going to have a successful vision if that's the case. We have roadmaps which are just bloated with all the features that have been requested by many, many people. It isn't a goal-based roadmap. It isn't saying these are the outcomes we want to achieve. It's just a whole heap of features. Teams are not working together. You know, a big sign of if you have a product vision and it's impaired, the one big sign is that teams do not see it as individually beneficial for them to cooperate. There is no benefit for them to work with other people, with other teams, so they don't. And they just work on serving the next link in the chain, the next handoff, and that's all they can focus on. So that's all they're going to be rewarded for. If your product vision is impaired, you can't visualize it. When you read it, when you think about it, nothing is conjured up in your mind. Nothing happens. It's just another document, another artifact. And it's impaired if it doesn't motivate you or anyone around you. If you've got a product vision in your organization and it doesn't motivate you, then leave your organization, right? Or see if there's some way you can entice people into taking another look at it. Life is too short to work in organizations that we don't believe in. So, in my experience, and bear in mind, what is my experience? I spent 20 years working in large banks, JP Morgan, Royal Bank of Scotland, Deutsche Bank. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years working across all manner of different organizations, whether it be kind of financial organizations that make medical devices, insurance companies, startups, scale-ups. And whenever there's been problems with vision impairment, it's normally because whether it's an implicit, either it's just imbued within everyone, or an explicit product vision, it's trying to please too many people. So if we look at this, classic product vision board, I love Roman Pitchler. He has bailed me out a number of times in my life, and I love the guy. And when I started using this product vision board, it would generally look something like this. And I haven't filled it all in because I didn't have the time. But on the target, you've got this massive box here. And it says target group. Which markets or market segment does your product address? Who are the target customers and users? So when we did this in, say, Royal Bank of Scotland, we'd list everyone. Everyone's our target. These are all the people that we want to satisfy. And guess what? No one was happy. Didn't satisfy a single one of them. We had no focus. And this is where it begins to go wrong. Is the moment your product vision is trying to focus on everyone, you focus on no one. And we've all heard it before. You know, you can absolutely do a red card for me saying everything Ben said we've heard before, he just used it and put the words product vision in front of it. It's true. Right? We lack focus, and that's why our product visions are rubbish, and that's why they don't do anything, that's why we don't motivate, that's why prioritization is hard. How are you going to prioritize between all those people? And what I said earlier about tech mindset organizations, they're playing with being a product organization. If you've ever worked in a real product organization where things are structured very, very differently, it's probably going to be smaller, they have a very different mindset, and actually, things are going to operate very differently. They are not, the people that are creating the product aren't supplying the business, aren't supplying change or product internally. They're providing something to the external market or to a validated internal user. And so in tech mindset organizations, what we find are silos. Now, spoiler, welcome, Henrietta. Spoiler, right, there are always going to be silos. You're never going to get rid of them. Apologies. All right, there's a gentleman called Andrew Kakabadze. You can Google him. He's in his mid-70s. He's done 20 or 30 books. He's been funded by many UK governments to research board and organisational behaviour. He's a phenomenal chap. And when I got the opportunity to spend some time with him, I asked him about this. I said, the Agile industry, the Agile community are obsessed with removing silos. I said, but is it possible? He said, no, there's decades of research. It's never possible. And if you're looking to get rid of the silos, you're doing the wrong thing. You want to change the shape of the silos and make it beneficial for people to cooperate between them, but they're always going to have silos. It's the way humans think. We always need to break stuff down to easier to manage pieces, unless we're small. So silos are a big problem in tech mindset organizations, but they're the wrong type of silos. Roles. Within each of these silos, we create role upon role upon role. And with each of those roles, we add more complexity. Each of those roles are measured and made accountable and are held to account for very specific things, which are for the benefit of optimizing that silo, not the overall. So complexity is a big problem, but I don't want to make this, talk about complexity, because there's been so many talks on complexity. I don't think the world needs another one yet. So I want to take a slightly different angle on it. So if you look at symptoms of complexity, due to blurriness. Okay, so if your product vision is blurry, if people aren't oriented on the right things, what are we going to be seeing? Well, leadership are going to care about what gets delivered and by when. So the team I was with last week, they were saying, well, how are we going to succeed in having, it's an OKR workshop, how are we going to succeed in making OKRs work if we're going to make them meaningful, if we're going to focus, when all our senior leadership team care about is what gets delivered by when? I said, well, they care about what, and then so we wrote some OKRs, and the key results were saying, we're going to deliver this by then. I'm like, well, that's the problem. Your narrative as a C-suite is about, we're going to deliver this by then, because that's the only thing you've got to anchor onto. So why don't we try and change that narrative? If teams don't talk about the customer, the actual customer, then I think there's an opportunity there. That strikes me that things are blurry. Whether it's an internal customer or whether it is a true external customer, teams should be talking about the customer in some way. They should know who the customer is. And if you don't talk about the actual customer here, and if you're thinking about your organization, the teams you support, ask yourself, who is the one single customer whose life your product is significantly impacting? Who is it? Right, can you think of that person? Can you think about the difference your product's going to make to their world? Because if you can't, then your vision is blurry. And when all this then compounds with clarity, measurement, and accountability. We have these roles, we boil things right down, everything that's really tough, and then we try then to make sure that each role, each department, each person, each individual team has clarity, and we measure them, we measure everything that we can do, so we can hold them accountable for it. So that, and I'm stealing this line from a great YouTube video, is that we can fail, but in a compliant way. Because at least we know who to blame when it goes wrong. But we never focus on, as I said before, how do we make it beneficial for people to actually work together? So, apparently he said this. If someone can Google it for me in a moment and let me know if he did actually write it down, that'd be good. But I liked it. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. We need to find a way to be a bit more think about it more simply. Anyone familiar with systems thinking? Raise your hand if you've heard of systems thinking. Keep your hand raised if you've heard of forest thinking. Yeah, so there are 7 tools of systems thinking, and there's a sequence in which you can go through them, and one of those is forest thinking, which is the opposite of tree thinking. And the problem is we have in organizations is that we focus tree by tree. And what we need to start thinking about, what's the forest? Okay, and that doesn't mean that it makes it more complex. We have to find a way to look at the forest but keep things simple. So, if we think really radically about our communication, okay, how do we communicate our intentions? How do we communicate what we're going to do, why we're going to do it, who the customer is? Then we have to really begin to think radically about our product and our organizational design. But before we go into that, I want to make really clear to you why I care so much. Because I always said, and I said this to a friend of mine, John Coleman, that visions come from visionaries. And I thought the problem with product visions wasn't because of any other reason, and the people that were trying to articulate the vision weren't visionaries. And I held that for a long time. It was pithy, it sounded great, I felt like I was important, but I was wrong. And this could also be wrong. I might change my mind in the next 24 hours. But I believe that visions should be expressions of motivational empathy. It should be something which develops such a strong sense of empathy within us that it actually motivates us to do the best job we can do collectively. And that a good vision, if it's a really good vision, we shouldn't care if we achieve it or someone else does. Like, that's how much we have to believe in it. Does that make sense? You know, this for me was a huge, huge revelation. And when I started to think, well, if I'm going to write a product vision, that I don't care if I achieve it or someone else does, like what needs to change in me? And I credit all of this to a really wonderful person called Radhika Dutt. If you haven't heard of Radhika Dutt, look her up, buy her book. It's phenomenal, radical product thinking. She's fantastic. And I credit so much of all of this to her. Because a good vision should make you want to dance, like even just a little bit. It should get you moving, it should excite you. So, yeah, I was going to change that, but I couldn't because it's an image. Great product visions happen when you really, really care about someone. There's another way of thinking about it. So who can we really, really care about? Whose will we want to change to motivate us to do a good job? So you don't have to be a visionary. You just have to care. Is one way of thinking about it. But then I thought, actually, do you know what? That's a load of rubbish as well. Because I thought, great, that sounds great and it's pithy, but I think actually, you don't have to be a visionary, you need to be given the context to be able to care. And that's the problem with our organisations, is that no one's given the context in which to actually care about the people we should be making a difference to. And that's, for me, where radical product thinking comes in. And for the rest of this talk, in the time that we've got left, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about some organizational design principles and some ways in which we can help to combat some of this, because radical product thinking flipped all this for me. Because it's a little bit small, but what it really forced me to do was to say, who is the one customer, the one person, the one segment that we actually want to make a difference to? Who is it? So we say, today when? And we list something very, very specific. And this vision will evolve over time. It will be true for maybe a year, 2 years, and it will evolve and it will change. But focus on the one person and then say, like, when they want to do something, what do they have to do and why is it unacceptable? And what we're doing here by answering these questions, by going through this process, is we're really tapping into that motivational empathy, making ourselves care about that person. So when the product that we're working on at the moment, Learn Connect, when we really thought about it, I thought, what is the motivation? What's the one thing that's going to really get me out of bed? And I haven't shared it all because I didn't get permission from my co-founder to share it all because he was busy. But we know that as learners, you want to grow your career and you want a good educational experience. And when we were thinking about, in our product, it's kind of think TripAdvisor for adult education. Like, who are we trying to appease? What are we trying to do? Is it the trainers? Who is it? But actually, it came that the one type of person we're really looking to affect and change the world for is the learner, above everything else. And the moment we hit upon that, the moment we decided that that was it, everything changed for us. All of a sudden, all the other actors, personas we had, they were our strategy for getting to that one person. All the problems we had in prioritization all became clear because we knew actually what we're trying to achieve. And then it struck me, when you look at user story mapping, what's the first thing you do in user story mapping? Figure out who you're going to focus on. Prioritization starts with a user or customer. So this is what I say to people now. Your first step in prioritization is figure out who. Answer these questions. Understand what that rough vision is, and then begin the hard work. Because once you begin to do this, things can begin to fall in place. Because radical producey thinking benefits, right? It gives a single prioritization anchor, which is really important. Every decision you're making, is it getting closer to us solving this real problem for this real person or not? Every other necessary user or customer or stakeholder is your strategy for making that difference. It means that actually when you begin to orient your whole organization not to working on different parts, different components of a technical product, but actually working on something which is more customer-centric, it means it is beneficial for people to cooperate because they're not being held accountable for how well they do their bit anymore. How fast they run their leg of the relay race. They're being held responsible for completing the relay race, for making that difference in the world. And so when you have roadmaps like this, like features and feature sets, and it looks like this, when actually what it really is a promise map, and it's please this person, and this person, then that person again. Now we've promised this, and oops, we forgot that person, and the CIO, what it does. Your roadmaps begin to look like this. This is what we call strategic swelling. It's a symptom. It's a problem. It's a disease. So strategic swelling is when we add new features to please people. And if we haven't got a clear vision, and we haven't got an anchor point, then we're just going to start pleasing everyone and just start filling our roadmaps full of features. It's another product disease caused by a blurry vision. So the quick quiz, very, very quick quiz. If you're up for this, these are very simple questions. But I haven't got a lot of time, so I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. There we go. There we go. People coming in. Okay. Can we get to 10 and then I'll start? Ooh, there we go. Right. So, really simple question. The question's not even there. How disappointing. Well, look, haven't. Oh. Whoop. Oh. Oh, because I think I got too excited. That's my problem. Next. Yeah, what is the main cause of strategic swelling? Is it focusing too much on a single customer? Is it constantly changing the product's direction? Is it ignoring customer feedback? Or is it trying to please everyone so that you add too many features? What is the main cause of strategic swelling? What do we think? Boom, there we go. Because we don't know we can't prioritize. We just say yes to everyone. We've got nothing to push back on people. You get rewarded for speed as well, by the way. Another one is obsessive sales disorder. Another disease in product development. Because we haven't got a clear vision, we haven't got some motivational short-term sales goals, trump everything else. So you can't predict, you can't make a roadmap, you can't make a roadmap, you can't plan stuff out, because it's always sales have just made the next big contract, so you're always changing direction. Your roadmap's just deal after deal after deal, there's no long-term thinking. So another question. What's the main issue caused by obsessive sales disorder? Is it you're really doing a good job at balancing things? Or is it actually you're prioritizing short-term sales over longer-term impact? What's the main issue? Boom. Exactly. We'll come to the leaderboard at the end. Hypermetricemia. All right, which is when there's too many metrics. We measure what we can rather than what matters. Right? This is another disease because we don't know what to measure, because we don't know what we're trying to achieve. This is going to work. So nearly last question. Oh no, you have hypermetricemia. You over-focus on sales. You've used OKRs poorly. You have obsessions with metrics and data with no direct link to the vision, or you're frequently adding features. There's actually two correct answers to this. If you want to double up, you're more than welcome to. Yes. So, yes, it is an obsession with metrics and data, but also most people use OKRs badly. It's disappointing. The best way I found to be successful with OKRs is set one with 3 key results. No more. So Radical Focus, great book. If you haven't read it, really recommend it. It's close. Oh, well done, Chris. Who's Chris? Hey, good work, Chris. Look at that. And pivotitis. Right. Linked to other diseases. And it's the overuse of change in direction too frequently because we don't know where we're going. So you've got all those different stakeholders. Please that one. Oh no, now please that one. Oh no, we shouldn't have pleased that one. We've got to do this one. We're just pivoting all the time. So we get a pivotitis. And the last one. How do you know if you have pivotitis? You can tell I was doing this in a rush. Overusing metrics and data, frequently changing direction. You can't touch your toes anymore, or getting all your metrics from one person. Yeah, can't touch toes anymore, that's something else, isn't it? And then for being 40, at least. There we go. Yes, you got it. Right, and the leaderboard, is it going to be Chris? Chris? Daria? Well done, Chris. I don't know what you've won. Just therapy. So here are a selection of product diseases, more of these in radical product thinking. Now, the cures for this. First of all, design your organization around the customer, not the tech. Have you ever considered actually creating organizational structures around customer themes, around what the customers want, not the tech? Tech mindset organizations, structure for organizations around the tech, because it's full of tech people. So of course you're going to do it around the tech. It's like Conway's Law. But if we take a different perspective, and we actually look at how, if you go into a smallish product company, you often find, and it's in my experience, that they're based around customer needs. And they stretch and they flex over time. So let's break away from that tech view and actually build design an organization around the customer. Let's look for continuous cross-team cooperation. In my experience, when things work really well, you don't know who's in which team. The teams are always cooperating, always talking. Yes, you have a team, but the amount of communication between it is intense. Because guess what? Like silos, you can't get rid of them. Dependencies, a lot of them, you're never going to get rid of them. If everyone's working on the same technology product, software from a code level, they're always going to need to talk. There's always going to be dependencies in some way. So focus on cross-team cooperation continuously. Focus on more holistically capable teams rather than fewer specialist roles. Okay, don't worry about the specialists. Focus on the capability of a whole team and set them interesting problems to solve. Look at what Marty Kagan said around product teams, which is just what we were saying about feature teams for many years. It's the same thing, give people problems to solve. Switch to a product mindset rather than a project mindset. Switch from controlling and trying to get a start on an endpoint and actually have things happen in a particular order in a certain way, and take a more product mindset. And if anyone wants to talk about how you can use a product mindset in a heavily project organization, then grab me afterwards and we can have a chat, because I've done it a number of times. And instead of if you're in an organization, if you've got lots and lots of small products, consider what it would be to have a few broad products. The more products you have, the more blurry your actual vision is going to be. So focus on having fewer products. And again, if you like, if you want to talk about that, grab me or get me on LinkedIn. And each of those broad products have a radical vision that motivates them through empathy. Make people care. And set minimal objectives for each. We're talking about huge simplification. Seeing the forest rather than the trees. So there's 3 things I recommend you try. 1, radical product thinking. There's a website, there's a toolkit on there, it's fantastic. 2, radical focus. Fantastic book. Really, really useful. And then less product design. The way that Les recommends you design your product is incredibly, it unlocks a lot of this for tech organizations. And that's it. We've got some live streams coming up with some good friends of mine. David Pereira just released an amazing book called Untrapping Product Teams, or Jeff Gotthelf, or Judy Dirksen, and Liz and Nazreen. Like, if you're interested, then do follow me on LinkedIn, or my company's account on LinkedIn, and then you come onto all these live streams. They're all totally free. If you ask good questions, you want to get involved, and we'll send you a link, and you can come and join us. What's next? Oh, that's me. And is there another slide? No, that's me. There you go. Thank you very much for putting up with me, and I'm sorry I'm not Abby.